Now here's the formula that will cost you money. Your job cost plus overhead plus profit equals sales price. It will cost you money. You will leave money on the table every time. Here's what it looks like. Say you have a small job, $1,750. You decide then to add your overhead, as the formula says, and we've already figured it out, it's 25%. We take 25% of this number, here it is, and we add it on, and we come to this point. So now we've got our job cost plus overhead, this number here, and now we take this number and we add our profit to it, which is 8% here of this number. Here's a number, and this is what we had. This essentially then would be our selling price, would it not, group? That's where we're at. There's our selling price. Or is it? Or is it? Let's take a look. Job cost times markup equals sales price. Here's our job cost. Here's our markup. Ooh, a little bit of difference, wouldn't you say? Arrive on time, ready to do business. You're not out there to socialize. Okay? You're going out on a sales call to sell your services to your customer. Arrive on time. If you're going to be 1 minute late, you pull out your cell phone and you call them. I didn't say 10 minutes, I didn't say a half hour, I said 1 minute late. That is courtesy to your customer. You call them and tell them, look, I'm running 3 or 4 or 5 minutes late. I'm running 10 minutes late. If you're running 15 minutes late or more, then give them the option to reschedule, because you don't know what's going on their end or how much time they've actually allocated for your sales call. And better than half of all contractors out there don't return the phone calls that come in from their potential customers. Think about this one. I got $350,000 sitting there, the bank is ready to give me to build a new home. I call you and say, I'd like to talk to you about building a new home. And you don't call me back for 3 or 4 days. Now you tell me why I should spend that $350,000 with you when it takes you 3 or 4 days to return a phone call. What are you going to do when it comes to building a house? 9 years from now, you finally get the house done. And that's what the media has taught our customers. That's the way the media has taught our customers to think. That's why it's so important. You must return that phone call the same day or by 9 o'clock the next morning. And if you look on Michael's 10 Cardinal Rules, you'll find that is number 1. You return your phone calls that day or by 9 a.m. the next day. Period. End the conversation. Let's talk about assimilating an unbudgeted overhead expense. I've stood up here today and ranted and raved and yelled and screamed and told you, you all must fix exactly what your overhead budget is for the year. Did I not? Yeah, told you all that. Has anybody ever here had a transmission go out in the middle of the year? Out of your truck? Yeah. So I can rant and rave all I want. Remember, I was pointing up here on this, say, well, you know, you can figure out to your overhead budget within $1. But the reality of it is, folks, stuff happens. And you can spell stuff any way you want. There's several different spellings of that word. Okay? We had the same problem that you do. How do you get to the end of the year and not have all your profit gone because you've had to buy a bunch of things that you weren't expecting? That's called an unbudgeted overhead expense. Dev and I got busy and figured out how to do it. Okay? You won't find this in any accounting book anywhere that we're aware of. Now, if there is one, I'd like to know about it, but we've never found it. Okay? Here's how you do it. Here's the math formula. It's a real simple formula. If you use it, you will find that at the end of the year, you will still have profit left. Won't that be a surprise? Wow. Okay, there's 3 ways to assimilate an unbudgeted expense into your overhead expenses for the year. First one is you can increase the sales volume for the period, which gives you more money for overhead, which will cover the expense. Will it not? Okay, that's why we recommend doing it right there. Here's another way. You can increase the markup for the period, can't you? All right? If you increase your markup, though, what does that do to you mentally? Makes it a little tougher to sell, doesn't it? So we don't recommend doing that. Even though more markup means more money on that job and gives you more money to pay for the unbudgeted overhead expense. And you can reduce the profit for the period. Now that is what most contractors do by default. They do nothing. They just make the expense. They do nothing about adjusting their sales more, get more sales in to get more money in. They just ignore it. So by default, they lose the profit for the period because all the profit goes to pay for the unbudgeted overhead expense. You want to know how to prevent having to give itemization? Okay? The first 30 minutes on any sales call you go on, you tell the homeowner something will come up. Somebody will mention something about money and you say, John, Mary, that brings me to an interesting point. Something happened a couple months ago when I was out to see some folks that I need to tell you our company policy on how we handle it. And that is, these people came to me after I'd quoted them a price, and all of a sudden they wanted a complete price breakdown on everything. Now that is a lot of extra work because I don't estimate my jobs in any way that you or anybody else that you know can figure out what I've done. We have a very unique estimating system. And if I'm going to give you any kind of a itemized estimate on any part or all of this job, then I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of extra work. So I'm going to tell you up front, if I'm going to do that extra work, I'm going to get paid on it. And I get paid at the rate of 75 bucks an hour, minimum 4 hours for itemization. I want to make sure we're clear up front, make sure there's no misunderstandings. I give you a firm price quotation for the work they do, but if you want itemization, you're going to have to pay for it. Am I clear on that?